A 7-goal thriller, Graham. I wasn't expecting that down at Amex Stadium, 5-2 to Brighton. Where do you think it went wrong for Leicester City, though?
I think both. I think in terms of their attacking play, at times wasn't good enough in possession. They looked poor. They looked like trying to play out. Danny Ward looked like he didn't understand how to play out at times. The centre backs didn't help in terms of not playing forward quick enough. So in possession, they didn't look like they had an idea what they were trying to do, which is unusual for Brendan Rodgers' teams, because he's really, that's what he's known for in terms of having the ball. I thought without the ball, they looked poor as well. Maybe Thomas was the only one that was making contact with people in terms of any type of aggression came from him. And then in transitions they were poor as well. They emptied midfield a lot, and you can see that with the first goal where they've just emptied in midfield. Iwapu just has the freedom of the park to drive through. He's one-on-one with Evans, but Casado helps him on the outside. But that was the story of the game, where anytime they coughed up the ball, and they coughed it up quite a lot. Maddison in particular was really poor on the ball. Anytime they done that, Brighton were just straight down their throats, and Brighton totally deserved to win the game.
You talked to John before the game about Danny Ward in goal. A very inexperienced goalkeeper, perhaps wasn't expecting to be the number one, but I think we were all taken a bit aback when Kasper Schmeichel left the club, and we know the kind of calmness that Kasper Schmeichel brought to that defensive area for Leicester City over the last number of years. He was there for so long, leaves the club, Danny Ward comes in. He's got 26 Welsh caps, but not very much experience in the Premier League. In fact, his last full season in league football was with Huddersfield back in 2015-2016. Can you maybe just tell people or explain to people what can happen to a defence when you've got so many different defenders, but as well when you've got a goalkeeper like that who maybe isn't filling the rest of his team with confidence?
Yeah, and listen, this isn't, before we speak about that, it wasn't his fault that they lost the game today. Yeah. Their outfield players were really poor, but what from a goalkeeper's point of view and from Leicester's point of view, they had continuity, they had consistency, they had familiarity with Schmeichel, and then they lose him. Now, how they're willing to sell him without having somebody lined up to come in and replace him that has a bit more quality than Ward has and a bit more experience than Ward has, that's a poor business decision from Leicester City's point of view. So, in fairness, that's not on Rodgers neither. But when you're used to having a goalkeeper behind you that you have trust in him, and you lose that trust in him, it can filter down to the team. You defend a little bit differently. You're a little bit more nervous in your defending, but you're also a little bit less calm as well. So you end up blocking shots maybe, or jumping out to block shots that you'd normally be a little bit more calmer in, because you don't want to give up shots on your goal. You try and block crosses a little bit. Sort of, you overcommit would be the word I'd use. You'd overcommit the crosses, or you overcommit the shots, and what happens is you get checked a lot by the centre forward or the winger, and then the cross will come in anyway, or you get checked and they open up the goal and bend it into the far side of the pitch. So again, it's not just on Ward, but the fact that Leicester haven't got somebody to come in and replace Schmeichel, who's been a mainstay in the club for the last 10 years, was there when they won the FA Cup, was there when they won the Premier League. And I know we spoke about as well about his age profile. Maybe they thought they'd cash in now and get the money, but unless you have somebody lined up to do that, you're setting your team off on the back foot going into the start of the Premier League season.
Absolutely, and I suppose transfers is the big thing for Rodgers. That's his big complaint, and we saw the owners coming clean with the supporters last week in the programme notes, or during the week I should say, to say that look, they spent so much over the last few seasons, they don't have the money there to spend on transfers. They brought in one player, Vout Face, who stayed on the bench today, and Brendan Rodgers just looks really, really unhappy, and you just wonder, has he kind of packed it in almost himself, and could we see him maybe leaving before Christmas?
I think if there's a disconnect between what the owners can give you and what you as a manager want to achieve with your team, I think that's going to cause disruption at the club. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'd see Rodgers leave over that. I know we had similar arguments with Liverpool about that they had a group of people that was
transfer committee. Yeah.
And I know he didn't agree with that, and eventually one of the reasons he's left Liverpool was because he called that out. He says, I don't know who we're signing, that's down to the committee, and it's one of the reasons that I think Liverpool lost patience with him and moved them on. And at Celtic he had a freedom to sign who he liked, and he had that he had ultimate control of the football club really, but he delivered success for them, so that's what came. I think when he got the job at Leicester, it was maybe to try and push on and challenge for Champions League places, and to try and break that monopoly of the top four. and always be in the top 6. But again, you can't help business around the world are being affected by loads of different things. Some clubs have come through it stronger, some haven't, and Leicester are one of the ones that have struggled. And I think Leicester fans would rather the club was run diligently rather than overspending and something happen where the club gets put into trouble financially. So from that point of view, I think that the owners have to be careful.
So just to move on to Brighton then, because we don't want to spend too much time talking about Leicester, the side who are really struggling, but it is interesting to see them anchor to the bottom after a few games, and it's hard to see a way out for them at the moment. But Brighton were really, really good today. They were very good.
I'm smiling here because they were actually a joy to watch. Me and you had great fun commenting on them. They were brilliant. Some of the goals they scored, and the disallowed goal is unbelievable. But their movement was really good. They played with a right-footed wing back on the left side. They played with a left-footed wing back on the right side. And when they checked inside, Wapu and Caicedo made them runs in them inside channels. And that allowed Gross to then wander and cause trouble and pick little pockets to play. He played off the front, he drifted out to the right hand side, he drifted out to the left hand side, he set up goals. McAllister pinned them all together for me. He allowed them front 5 to go on attack. And in fairness to Welbeck, he was the focal point that allowed, if and when they needed to go centrally and play into him and hold up the ball, he did it, and he brought their other players into the game. Some of the touches around the edge of the box were fantastic, and some of the goals they scored were really, and it was actually, they were really enjoyable to watch it. And I'm smiling here talking about them. As much as I think Leicester look like they're struggling, their body language is poor as players. Rodgers' even body language on the sideline looks defeated at times as well. But full credit to Brighton, they were fully deserving of the win today. They were excellent. They were actually unlucky to go in at 2-2 at half time. And in fairness, the goal as well that McAllister scores that then gets chalked off took a little fizz out of it for about 5 minutes, but then for them to go on and finish the game with 5-2 was fantastic.
What do you think of Alexis McAllister? What makes him such a good player? What impressed you about him most today?
I just thought it was his game understanding, the fact that he in defensive positions he was fantastic. He covered in. Again, Caicedo, when his other two midfielders were in advanced positions and had gone and joined in the attack, he was the one that gave them cover. I thought if Trossard or March were a little bit too high, he covered in for them as well. If one of the centre backs had to get drawn out, but then he's really comfortable at taking the ball and making things happen. So he's able to get a tempo and a rhythm into Brighton and get the lads onto the ball and get them playing like you said. And Caicedo and Wapu and Gross and Trossard and March, he's the one feeding them and he's letting them go and play, but he's always backing them up and giving them that assurance that they don't get counter-attacked as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where he slots in with his Argentina team this winter for the World Cup, because I do think we'll see him out there. But just looking across, and they've got a couple of other players going to the World Cup, and Caicedo as well, and Wapu's another player be going for with Ecuador. You look across that team today, Trossard, Welbeck, whom you've mentioned, the back three as well, Webster, Duncan, Veltman, who's slotted in there as well this season. There isn't really a player you pick out there today had a bad performance. They all contributed in some way.
And even the lad that they brought on, you said was the record signing, the left wing back, he was fantastic.
Stupinian,
yeah, and Lamptey was brilliant for them last year as well. So they do have strength and depth in the areas to come on. But the running power of Caicedo and Wapu today was fantastic, and even Trossard, March making runs and inside sometimes. But they chased every lost ball. They kept the ball in play. They didn't let things run out. There was a tempo and there was an enthusiasm about them and an aggression about them in terms of on the ball. People say you can be aggressive off the ball and make tackles, which I didn't think Leicester done enough of that today. But there was an aggression about Brighton today, was that they passed forward and they ran forward and they got forward and they got the 5 goals off the back of it. They were totally deserving of the win.
But that's what they need now across 38 or 30 odd games they have left now, is consistency. They need to bring that to every match now.
Yeah, they do. Again, they're sitting in 4th position. They're punching above their weight here when you consider what they're around. You consider the spending power of all the teams around them. Liverpool's, Manchester, the 2 Manchester clubs, the North London clubs, Arsenal and Spurs, and then you have Chelsea as well. To even be in amongst that mix, if they're able to be consistent, they're breaking into the top 6 on that performance. But again, every team is looking for consistency, and they're going to come up against teams that will just be on the day be better than them and have more quality on them. But if they can go better than their 9th finish place last season, they'd be doing really well. So if they can break into the top 6, it'd be great. But if it'd be a hell of a season for them to do that.
It's been a good club as well for young Irish players to come over and to learn their trade. And just to ask you finally about Evan Ferguson, because they do lack that focal point in the attack. That's the thing supporters worry about so much. Danny Welbeck came in there, did a job today, but Potter has tended to go sometimes with playing a false nine in that team. Supporters have wondered maybe should Evan Ferguson be brought in, given a go, but he is only 17, and Graham Potter, even with players with talent, we saw with Tariq Lamptey even before his injury, he's very I suppose he's very slow about bringing players in. We even mentioned about McAllister earlier on. He didn't get thrown in and get a run of games all at the start. So I think that's just the way Graham Potter is. He takes time, even with a player like Evan Ferguson, who is, I suppose, he defies science, doesn't he? A fella 17 years of age, and he's a fully grown man, isn't he? You know him better than me.
Yeah, I was again. I think I mentioned on this before. Obviously I played with Barry, and I've tried.
His dad, yeah.
Yeah, his dad Barry played. We played together at Longford back in 03 and 04. So I would have known of Evan as a player coming up because I was involved in schoolboy football. I tried to sign him a few times and get him out of Kevin's, but he wasn't for moving. But he's a fantastic attitude as well, and that's the thing. And speaking to Barry, who lives up beside me, and he's really happy with his progress and what Brighton are trying to do. And again, and you touched on the McAllister one. It's putting them in so that they continue to have confidence in what they're doing. So they go in and do well, and you don't need to leave them play until they don't to take them out. They're taking them out off the back of a good performance. I know he played in the League Cup as well. I think he made his debut for them and he scored. So they're building him up gradually so that he's successful and stays in the team, or he's always making an impact. So I agree with you. I think how they're managing him, and because there is a lot of expectation on him, especially from us Irish people as well, because we want them to do really well. I think they're managing him amicably, and they're trying to bring him on in step by step with his progress, and not put too much on him too soon. And that he's the great hope for Brighton. I think by the time he's 19 or 20, he could be a regular, but that has to be with him putting in performances, avoiding injuries. His development is in the right way. And he's going to learn off the likes of Welbeck. Welbeck's a very experienced player. He's played at Manchester United, he's played at Arsenal. He's done really well for Brighton today, but you can tell he can learn off the small little things that he picks up, and he probably end up being more clinical finisher than Welbeck. But if he can learn the other bits around his game, he's going to add to this Brighton team going forward.